This then, when you understand that, you can look at other stories. For instance, in the Islamic faith, for those of you who don't know, there's a story of Gabriel who comes to the house, the angel Gabriel. And he cries out, "You have never lied to me before. You have never not came when you said you're coming, but you have not come." And they find a puppy under the bed. And he says, "How long has this dog been here?" So he puts the dog outside of the house representing you, your personage. When you go within and you meditate and you pray, you enter within your house. Just as it is written in Christianity, to go within. To go in and close the closet door. Not literally a closet, it's not a literal thing, it's to go within yourself. When you see the man with the pitcher of water, follow him and go into the house. Go inside yourself when you enter the age of Aquarius. This is where we are now. Now in that story, they put the dog outside and the angel comes and the angel says, "I cannot enter a house where the dog is present." I mean, it's very clear that can't be literal. An angel of God, a loving almighty being, can't come in a house because there's a puppy. No, it means because even if there is a small amount of your lower self present within you, you may not commune with an angel, you may not commune with the higher levels of consciousness and the higher energies that are available to us when we commune with God. So this is a new setting because this is the new building which is nearly finished. And it's got a little porch on the back. So this is where I'm sitting. It doesn't look familiar. It's not quite done. There's no glass and stuff in the windows, etc. So I want to talk about something, and it's going to be, first thing I need to say straight away is I'm not making this to bash any religion. Now, what if you could say I'm wanting to educate, but if you're going to say I'm bashing anything, you can say I'm bashing literalism, because things should not, in spirituality, in spiritual texts of all faiths, all religions, all nations, when dealing with God and angels and prophets and messiahs, of course it's not all literal. Of course there's an element of mysticism in there. You're talking about sons of God. So of course it's not just going to be literal as you see it. This is very clear with Jesus, where he tells you, "I speak in parable." The Apostle Paul tells you, "You must know the dark sayings." And he tells you, "These things are an allegory." You have to accept that if you're going to make any sense of it. Now, the problem I have on the planet at the moment are literalist religions are battling each other still, and there's no necessity in it, because there's a union between all of the teachings: Christianity, Buddhism, Hindu, Islam. There is a union between them, because if you understand the languages of this planet, such as the languages of esoterics, the languages of mysticism, the languages of numerology, languages which have existed throughout the ages, and if you do not know them, you can't possibly understand texts that were written within those ages by persons who knew those languages. You just can't. Now, what has spurred me on to do this video, here in Tanzania, first and foremost, let me put it this way so no one thinks, because I know, unfortunately, a Western male speaking a negative thing about a religion that's not Christianity might be deemed as bashing that religion. It's just how it will go. Now, I've met Christians in Tanzania, missions, who don't believe dogs have a soul. They don't believe animals have a soul. and they don't believe that their life matters as much as a human being's. Now, you all know I'm the opposite to this. To me, this is very unloving. But here in Tanzania, the Muslim community, those who follow Islam, many of them really hate dogs. And they think dogs are dirty, and they think dogs, if they go near them, they have to go and get changed and washed before they can go to the mosque. Now, they justify this behaviour using their book. So I've had to research. I've had to do that whilst I was in Tanzania to understand some of these peculiar beliefs. Now, one belief is that black dogs are very evil. Now, this is actually written in the Islamic scriptures. But what these people have read are the words of scholars who didn't have control of their lower mind, their egos. So they wrote what they thought culturally around them God would like to hear, whilst they were translating these texts. A person of Muslim faith might call them fabricated hadith. Now, it literally says, the Prophet Muhammad literally says you should kill all the dogs. Now, to a literalist, to me, if I was literal, I'd say that that man is something wrong with him. And even if I were following this man as a doorway to my God, to Allah, I would also think, what is wrong with him? Why does he want to kill innocent animals? What have they done to him? But what this is, it's misinterpretation. Misinterpretation of a beautiful, mystic, esoteric text. Just as the Bible is, just as the Bhagavad Gita is. Now this begins, if you're going to be on a literalist, if you want to remain a literalist and ignore all forms of language which have existed throughout the ages, and you are following the Islamic faith, then there is a surah where God's righteous people enter a cave. And it purposely tells you that they had their dog with them. So it was okay for God's righteous people to have their dog with them then. So it contradicts the idea that dogs are unclean if God's righteous people take their dog with them on their journey. But this is not a literal text, as I say anyway, but if you must insist on being a literalist, there's your first problem in despising dogs because apparently your prophet told you to. Because it also tells you in the surah, Surah 18 or 8, Surah 18, I think it is, that the people of the cave, the righteous people of Allah, had their dog with them. Now, if, however, you're like me and you're learned on numerology and esoterics, you might understand that a little bit better. Now, in the surah, I think it's 18, forgive me. In the surah 18, is it 18? I think it is. The people of the cave. It speaks, it says their numbers were 7. It speaks by saying the numbers were 5, were 6, the numbers were 7. And the 8th among them was the dog. In Middle Eastern culture, a dog symbolizes, due to the societal view on things, the lower aspects of life. Now, naturally, as someone who's rescued countless dogs here in Tanzania, currently got 56 living with me, I don't for one second think that they are a lower being or anything, but this is a representation in the language of esoterics. You need to have symbology within your language to represent what you're trying to convey, especially when you're doing it in a mystic esoteric sense. So, the 7 is always representing 2 things. Divine intervention or the energy centers in union within the human body. So as the 7 enter the cave being the inner place, the cave being you, your inward journey within yourself. Just like Plato's story of the cave. Hello, Tumaini. Dio. Sabine, hold on guys, sorry. Sorry guys, that was one of my sons, Tumaini, and one of the other boys has been picking on him, so I need to go and sort it out in a moment. Now, what I was saying, in that part of the world, the lower nature in esoteric language is represented by the dog. This is how it is represented. Now, if you move around to the Christian stories, for example, which come from a reasonably similar part of the world, they use other terms such as a lion. Samson fights the lion and overcomes his lower nature. In the Nag Hammadi, there is a beautiful saying about when the lion consumeth man, the man becomes the lion. Because when the ego, the lower self, when the physical need for pleasures overcomes the higher self, then you become that lower you. Now, when 7 go on an inward journey into a cave, it means they find union within their 7 energy centers by going within in meditation. And the 8th that is with them is their lower nature, but their lower nature is not prominent because the 7 have union within the cave, but you will always take your lower nature with you. And if the union between your 7 energy centers breaks, then your lower nature, represented by the dog, will overcome. This then, when you understand that, you can look at other stories. For instance, in the Islamic faith, for those of you who don't know, there's a story of Gabriel who comes to the house, the angel Gabriel. And he cries out, "You have never lied to me before. You have never not came when you said you're coming, but you have not come." And they find a puppy under the bed. And he says, "How long has this dog been here?" So he puts the dog outside of the house representing you, your personage. When you go within and you meditate and you pray, you enter within your house. Just as it is written in Christianity, to go within. To go in and close the closet door. Not literally a closet, it's not a literal thing, it's to go within yourself. When you see the man with the pitcher of water, follow him and go into the house. Go inside yourself when you enter the age of Aquarius. This is where we are now. Now in that story, they put the dog outside and the angel comes and the angel says, "I cannot enter a house where the dog is present." I mean, it's very clear that can't be literal. An angel of God, a loving almighty being, can't come in a house because there's a puppy. No, it means because even if there is a small amount of your lower self present within you, you may not commune with an angel, you may not commune with the higher levels of consciousness and the higher energies that are available to us when we commune with God. The angel can't come into your house. That angle of light carrying the photon with it cannot come in and pass the message from God when you are dwelling in your lower self and you are distracted, because the message is too subtle for you to hear. And even if there's a little bit of your lower self present, you won't be able to accept the higher knowledge from the angels because you have a small amount, a puppy of all things, in your house hiding under the bed. You have a small amount of your lower self present. You have not been able to kill off the 5 senses completely in meditation, so as you can allow space for God and his angels to come in and work with you and through you and pass on the messages to show you which way to go. To be of your highest good to the Lord, to God, to Christ, to Allah, to whichever you want to call it, Krishna. Now this then spills over when you understand the dog represents the lower self. Of course their prophet said, "Kill all the dogs." When dog represents the lower self, I too, who rescue dogs constantly, say, kill the dogs if it represents the lower self in a person. That's what I make these videos for, to tell you to kill your metaphorical dog, as it is written in Middle Eastern language, to kill your lower self in meditation and prayer. To sacrifice your 5 senses, to crucify your 5 senses as the 5 wounds of Jesus on the cross, because only when the physical flesh dies do you ascend and become as a Christ. This is why you must kill the dogs. It doesn't literally mean you should go out and kill dogs. It doesn't mean you should mistreat animals. And it's stupid and not thought through. This is too ridiculous for people to approach spirituality and something which is mystical to us all, the concept of God, with a literalist mind. Is beyond me. How can you literalize it and say that an almighty being of God will not enter a house because there's a dog there? Of course it means something other than that. It doesn't mean because there's a dog I can't come in your house. It never has meant that. And the men and women who wrote this would have hoped and prayed to God that it was very clear how silly the stories were, that they wouldn't be taken literal. I've said this about Christianity. People did not get eaten by whales and regurgitated 3 days later. Clearly it's an allegory. 100-year-old woman does not conceive a baby. Apostle Paul told you it's an allegory. But the church don't teach you it's an allegory. They go against what the Apostle Paul said. Now, just as within the Bible, in the Quran, and other Islamic teachings, they are allegorical from an ancient time of numerology, an ancient time of esoterics and mysticism, and a coded language, so as the literalists could not abuse the power of God for their own gain. But unfortunately, many do have it, and they do abuse it now. Now, all of this is stimulated in me because, as I say, people say dogs don't have souls, and maybe dogs don't go to heaven. This is where it starts with me. And also I protect dogs, unfortunately, a lot of the time from mistreatment from Islamic families here, because they believe these things to be literal. Now, the other day, God works in very mysterious ways, and just as a motorcycle was passing my gate, a puppy popped out of a box right in front of us and landed on the road. And it wasn't harmed or injured, it was going quite slow. And the man came and he grabbed it off the floor because he saw it was going towards it, and he grabbed it in such a horrible, aggressive way, and he said, "This is mine. This belongs to me. And to me, no living thing belongs to another living thing." That's not how it is. It's just not how it is. We should not own something to profiteer from it. Now, this man had yellowed eyes, so I knew he'd been drinking alcohol most of his life, as there are many yellow-eyed humans here, unfortunately, because of the banana beer that's local in the area. Banana spirit, it's not beer. And I knew how to answer to a man like this, and I knew it was God who made that dog drop out of that box right in front of me. On all of the kilometres of road he was travelling, it happened right in front of me, literally in front of me. And he allowed that puppy, he told that puppy, an angel told that puppy, "Climb out of there now, make a jump for it, and then you'll be safe." And that synchronicity allowed me to take the dog. Now, it cost me money, but I know men like that. That's how you get through to them. So things got a little heated as I defended the puppy and bought it from him and another which was inside the box. And one of the boys is called one Corporal and the other one Spirit. And they are beautiful, and they are God's creatures, and they are God's children, just as we are. And they are loved by God. And if you say it's just chance coincidence that they popped out in front of an animal rescue, out of the box from an abusive person, then you need to go back and study mathematics, because the mathematical possibility of that is just beyond impossible. And this is where synchronicity comes in. This is where synchronicity teaches us God's will and God's message. But at the same time, coded within his books are very clear stories to show us what is meant. And if you are too ridiculous to accept that you might be wrong, because you've devoted your life to a literalist way, and you can't look at something and say, yeah, okay, for instance, a 100-year-old woman did not conceive a baby. Immediately after that, Apostle Paul said these things are an allegory. But the church doesn't tell us that. You can't possibly say an ultimate being of light and love can't come in a house because the dog's there, but it can't enter you if your lower nature's present. The same lower nature that would take that text literal and mistreat a dog because you think you're more than it, because you've literally interpreted your spiritual, religious text. So, we have to do as is spoken in all faiths, to go within, to find union in our 7 energy centers and commune with God, commune with Allah, commune with Krishna, commune with the Buddha within, commune with the Christ, And when you do that and you find the union between the 7 energy centers, which are known as chakras in the Sanskrit, the 7 people who enter the cave, then your lower nature will always be present. Your dog will always be with you. Will always be that 8th there. But you can overcome it as long as you keep union of the 7. And there at the right hand of me was a book sealed up the back with 7 seals, as it says in the Bible. This is you. You're the book. And sealed up your back are 7 energy centers. When you find union in those 7, then you will find peace. And you will find service. You will find rest with God. You will hear God. Only when you put in the work and find the union. If you're going to literalize everything, it's always going to make very little to no sense on this planet. And that's what we see with all these mindless wars and arguing and people bashing one religion and the other religion. All the literalists don't know what they're talking about. That's why they get angry at each other. They don't know how to find the Christ within them. They don't know how to sit in the love of Allah. You have to go within. The kingdom of God is within you. To know thyself is to know Allah. This is what is written in every religion. To go within, without the chatter of your mind and what you think is right or what you believe you learned is right. God doesn't speak to you in that way. God speaks to you in the silence of your own mind. That's how you work. This is how you will always work. You need to get into your pineal. An angel needs to come into your house. Your lower nature can't be there. Your puppy dog can't be under the bed. When the angel comes in, it can speak through your pineal. For I have seen God face to face, and I call that place pineal, as it is written in Jacob. Okay. Much love, guys. I better go and sort out this conflict.